Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi, and today I get to take my first crack at a budget version of an archetype I have been the most excited about since the very earliest previews of Dominaria United. That, of course, is the Domain deck. And while this is a first pass, I think this is one of those decks we are going to see a lot, not just over the next 2 years in Standard, but I think this is the birth of a new relevant archetype in Historic. We only need really a couple of things to come together to potentially make this a powerhouse. If we see Domain picked up in any of the other sets over the next 2 years, this deck is really going to become more and more meaningful. Secondly, I think this is one of the decks that is a early leading contender to be one of the new player experience decks next August in the 2024 new player experience class. Unfortunately, I think it's shaping up to probably be the blue-green deck, which is always not great. But it is a deck that even if you're not excited about now, you will eventually have a high potential of needing to play that deck as part of your collection. And certainly learning to play against it is going to be very useful information. So stay tuned. But before we get into all that, I am super excited at the prospect of getting to 500 subs because that is going to allow me to do a lot of really cool community building stuff for y'all over on EtherHub. So take just a moment, do all those YouTube things to support the channel, and I won't have to be awkward about it. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. Now, this deck tech is pretty simple, and let me be clear, this is definitely a starting point for a budget version of the deck. If budget is not an issue, there is definitely other and arguably better things you can be doing with Domain. But the usual suspects here, I believe, are going to be Gaia's Might, the Brawler, the Rootwalla. Green Widow, I think, is a one-of for this deck, probably not a multiple copy of, and I feel pretty good about including this in the budget version as it is conspicuously available in the jump-in packets. Weatherseed Treaty ramps, it gives you a body, and it gives you a domain +X+X trample effect, so it's pretty much the entire deck in a single card, but as such, we are only running 2 copies. Radha, Coalition Warlord, is another one of those domain overrun style effects. I'm running a one-of here as a red splash. Slimefoot Survey, I'm only running 1 copy because it's pretty late on the mana, and honestly, I think the majority of the time, by the time you get to 5 mana, you probably already have Domain, you probably already have your ramping done, and this just becomes less necessary. I'm not sure that this will be in the final version of a budget deck in any quantity, but I am willing to test it and see how well it comes up. Territorial Maro, you've got to love references to Wizards of the Coast. Domain, power and toughness equal to twice the number of basic land types among lands you control. So on full domain, this becomes a 10-10. And Herd Migration drops a bunch of 3/3 beast tokens, or early game lets you search up a basic land card to help you get more domain. From there, this first column is basically pump and trample effects. What these big creatures, whether it's the Brawler, the Rootwalla, or the Maro, what they need is trample. So we are doing that through a variety of effects like Massive Might, Twin Inferno, Colossal Growth, Two-Handed Axe, Heroic Charge, can give trample on the kicker, Lunar Frenzy is a nice instant speed, first strike, trample combat trick thing. Then we got some basic removal from the jump-in packs of Bite Down. Of course, quantities on these can vary. This is a starting point based on a very low assumption of what is available in your collection, and we will continue to upgrade and specialize this deck over time. Joint Exploration allows you to ramp, as does Sprouting Goblin. Also comes with a convenient 2/2 Goblin body. Deathbloom Gardener is more ramp, also color fixing, also Death Touch to potentially hold the board when it's not doing other things. And of course, Scout the Wilderness, search for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle. If it was kicked, you also get 2 1/1 white soldier tokens, which is not bad for 5. Also on 3 mana, just being able to search up that 4th or 5th domain token, or not token, but domain type is very worthwhile. And then the deck just kind of finishes out with what I consider to be just really good cards that have potential in this deck, all from your new player experience. Lion Sash is a nice way to pump up one of your already big creatures, or maybe one of your lesser threats to raise the level here. It also allows you to mess with your opponent's graveyard while doing so, which can be very nice in this environment. And then of course, with that bigger creature, whether it is functioning as an enchantment or a creature in its own right, can then be given additional pumps and trample effects, a la the overall style of this deck. Gala Greeters is just really good when you bring creatures into play. It gets bigger in its own right. It creates treasure to help us ramp if need be, or to pay those oddball kicker costs here and there. Or it can just gain you 2 life if you're trying to hold on into the mid game. From there, Wandering Emperor. I don't think I really have to explain why this card is good. A deck this year makes white mana, we're probably going to have Wandering Emperor in at least the first draft. And then Glorious Sunrise is in here. This is one of those new player experience cards that I really haven't talked about a lot this year, primarily because of the first effect. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. It also has the option of giving one of your lands tap for 3 green, so it gives you a nice ramp effect. Or it can allow you to draw a card if you control a creature with power 3 or greater, which should not be difficult. Or again, allows you to gain life if you are trying to just hold on that one more turn in order to secure the win. From there, we got a pretty basic, no pun intended, mana base here. We're running 3 plains, 2 mountains, and 9 forest. I think any domain deck is honestly going to be green base. And then we've got, I believe, a full complement of the basic 2-color land types. We have the red and white and green and white rare lands from your new player experience. And that pretty much is the beginning mana base. And of course, that is also very likely to change. I'm not sure that quite all of these are in the right mix, and of course that's going to depend upon our later card selections. Of course, what this deck really wants is a Fling Effect, where you sacrifice that creature, hopefully post-combat, and deal its power and damage directly to either your opponent or a pesky creature. Historic already has a ton of these, and you can surely guess if we port this over into Historic, this is definitely the direction I will be taking with this. But if we get a Fling Effect, even a reprint of Fling itself or Thud in Standard, this deck is gonna go bananas. I also want to take just a moment and kind of illustrate the effect that Jump In can have for a new player. I am currently filming this on my secondary account in which I have done no jump in. And as you can see, even this very basic introductory domain concept list, most of the cards I don't have. Lunar Frenzy, Lion Sash, the Wandering Emperor, Glorious Sunrise, of course the basics, and then the 2 rare lands that I'm running in the deck. All of the domain stuff up here I don't have because I haven't done jump in on this account yet. I haven't started drafting. So really it's more of a concept at this point than even a shell of a deck. But when I switch back over to my primary account, now you can see I in fact have most of this deck already just from aggressively having played jump in. I should have kept count of how many jump ins I actually did, but I think it was somewhere around a dozen. And I pretty much already have this deck. It's just a matter of filling in a few commons and uncommons. That'll be easy enough to pick up in draft, or as I discussed recently in my top 3 draft archetypes, Domain is almost a deck you don't need to draft because of the jump in factor. These last few cards will easily fill itself in when I open packs, and then of course if I do draft more specific Domain archetypes, this deck is still very open to be rebuilt and get a lot more focused and potentially a lot more dangerous over the course of the next 2 standard years of which it will be illegal.
And with all that having been said, don't forget, smash that like button like Ronnie J would. And no matter where in the world you are watching this from, I hope you have a magical day. And until next time, I'll see you in the arena.